When sex disappears from a marriage, men understandably go looking for answers, and the internet's full of them. The problem is that the most common explanations, the ones you'll find in the comment sections and forums, are not only wrong, but also counterproductive and harmful. The trouble is that these narratives turn what could be a solvable problem into a hopeless situation. She's broken and you're doomed, so what's the point? But in most cases, that simply isn't true. So in this video, I'm going to debunk the 5 most common lies about women and sex in marriage, so you can understand what's really going on and start rebuilding intimacy in a way that actually works. Hi, I'm Laura, a relationship therapist and coach. I help couples build relationships that feel alive and fulfilling. If you're new here, welcome. A quick disclaimer before we start. This video is for men in low sex or sexless marriages. It does not apply to men in marriages affected by abuse, infidelity, or ongoing cruelty. Lie number 1, female desire is broken. Women aren't defective men. Their desire simply works differently. Men typically experience spontaneous desire, whilst women in long-term relationships typically experience responsive desire. That's normal, and it doesn't mean she's broken. Whilst zero willingness to engage sexually is a sign that something needs attention, a significantly different pattern or intensity of desire from men is normal. For women with responsive desire, sex in long-term relationships therefore needs to become intentional. More on this later. But statements you might have heard, such as "once desire is gone, there's no turning back," are extremely harmful. This is men measuring female desire against male desire, which is an exercise in futility and a recipe for division and resentment. Insinuating failure on her part because her desire works differently from yours is going to alienate her and shut down any chance of repair. Learning about responsive desire from books like Emily Nagoski's Come As You Are will set you free from this myth. Link in the description. Lie number 2, the bait and switch. The fact that female sexual desire fades after the initial honeymoon phase is not evidence of trickery or manipulation. It's completely natural, even if it's something neither of you were taught to expect. Women have a fraction of male testosterone levels, the hormone responsible for producing such a robust libido in men, and so even minor stresses can extinguish desire, which for women is far more contingent on context and environment. Women are often confused and sometimes ashamed by their loss of libido. In fact, many women want sex the way they used to, but simply don't, and that's not their fault. Here's an example from my own marriage. When I met my husband, we spent the first 3 months in Texas, and like any new couple, we were all over each other all the time. We had no real responsibilities and we were besotted by each other. Then we returned to the UK. My mum was diagnosed with terminal cancer. Obligations piled up and life got complicated, as it does. Naturally, with all our new challenges, he wasn't as attentive and I wasn't as interested in sex. It wasn't a sign that either of us had been fooling the other initially. It was simply real life arriving in all its complexity and passion stepping aside to make room for it. Therefore, we had to learn to become intentional about intimacy and romance, something which to this day remains an ongoing project. Lie number 3, sex is a weapon. This is the most common myth I see in the comments section by far, and I've made a whole video on exactly what is and what isn't weaponizing sex. I'll link to it below. But briefly, it's defined by a deliberate intent to harm or control using sex as leverage, and it is indeed abusive behavior. But it is far rarer than the internet would have you believe. Most sexual withdrawal or avoidance is not the result of intent to harm, but far more commonly, stress, overwhelm, relationship dynamics, health issues, medications, or a multitude of other contributing factors. More often than not, it's self-protection or avoidance, not malice. Personally, I've never used sex as a bargaining tool or withheld it as punishment, and in over a decade of working with couples, I've encountered it vanishingly rarely. It's categorically not the norm. If your wife is genuinely weaponizing sex, that's coercive control, full stop. But if she isn't and you're treating her as though she is, then the accusation will be as big a problem in your marriage as her withdrawal. Lie number 4, no sex equals an affair. If a woman loses interest in sex, it usually just means she's lost interest in sex, not that she must be getting it somewhere else. And yet this is one of the most common places a man's mind goes, and I understand why. If sex is, for you, one of the primary ways you feel connected and alive in a relationship, then its absence feels like a vacancy that must be filled elsewhere. But again, this is men projecting their own sexuality and the non-negotiable significance of it onto women, and it's a damaging misread. The assumption that women are motivated sexually to cheat is generally wrong. When women do stray, it's far more often to feel seen, heard, and desired, to experience the emotional warmth of being someone's priority. For women, infidelity is often rooted in emotional disconnection, not sexual appetite. It's easy to think sex is lifeblood to me, so if she's not getting it from me, where is she getting it from? But the reality is probably nowhere, because she doesn't need it in the way that you do. Female desire, when it disappears in a marriage, tends to just disappear rather than redirect elsewhere. This can be fixed, but not by treating her like a suspect. Lie number 5, if she loved you, she would. A woman's complicated relationship with sex is not always a verdict on her love for you, although I completely understand why it feels that way. If you told her it matters and she doesn't follow through, it can feel like she simply doesn't care. But it's not quite that simple. Many women don't understand what the big deal about sex is, and so they don't appreciate how strongly men equate it with love and connection. They may love you deeply, but genuinely not understand why the other ways they show love aren't enough. Maybe she works hard, keeps a warm home, takes great care of the children, and treats you with kindness during the day-to-day. Maybe she believes sex is just a trivial urge, so surely it's no big deal to go without. Right? This is women projecting their own relationship with sexuality onto their husbands, and it usually comes from a lack of understanding rather than a lack of love. Furthermore, because women's relationship with sex is complicated, integrating it healthily often involves difficult inner work that a lot of women would rather avoid. So, whilst many women in sexless marriages do love their husbands, they don't love sex, and so, if they don't understand its significance, consciously or unconsciously, they'll avoid the work needed to restore that connection. The point here is that men and women are different, and if we can stop pathologizing each other's differences, we might stand a chance of developing the empathy required to give enough of what the other needs. These accusations and labels, she tricked me, he's pressuring me, women are selfish, men are lazy, do nothing other than drive a wedge between husbands and wives. If men's sexuality is labelled as oppressive or predatory and women's as broken or manipulative, there'll be too much poison in the well to create genuine intimacy. And here's the thing, your wife probably isn't trying to trick you or punish you. She probably doesn't hate you. She's probably just doing the very human thing of trying to avoid facing something challenging or frightening. That's not to say it shouldn't be faced. Sex is vitally important in a successful marriage, just as important as emotional connection. So your wife, assuming she wants your marriage to survive, simply can't opt out indefinitely because sexless marriages don't work, and you're right to take that seriously. But the approach you take is everything. Frustration, suspicion, anger, and withdrawal, while understandable responses to years of rejection, ultimately don't fix anything. Instead, your energy must go into communicating what sex actually means to you, that it's about connecting with her specifically, that it's about emotional connection, that it's about giving and receiving love, that it's about feeling valued and appreciated. You must learn to find the words she'll actually understand and communicate them in a way she'll be prepared to hear. Because in my experience, most women respond positively once they truly understand the depth of meaning behind sexual intimacy. And if she's struggling with more personal issues beyond understanding, she'll be far more willing to work with you to address them once she knows how much it matters. Even then, with the best will in the world, the healthiest woman is not going to match you in terms of spontaneous desire, just as the healthiest man probably won't match her need for romance or emotional depth. That's just a fact of life. But couples who thrive learn to dance with this tension. They accept their differences without pathologizing them and are willing to visit each other's worlds regularly as whole individuals with authentic love and intention. My husband is not some imagined romantic ideal, and I'm not a creature of endless, effortless desire. But you don't have to be those things all the time. You just have to be willing to play that part for each other sometimes. He lights the candles and writes the cards, and I meet him in the shower or put on some lingerie. Both require forethought, but are always genuine because we matter to each other. That spirit of mutual generosity is what keeps marriages truly alive. If any of this has resonated and you feel ready to stop going round in circles and actually make progress, I'm now offering one-day couples intensives, online or in person here in Somerset. In a single focused day, we'll get to the crux of what's standing between you and a more intimate marriage. We'll identify unhelpful patterns, practice new ways of communicating, and create a clear path forward together. Within a week, you'll receive a detailed personal action plan with individual guidance for each of you, clear agreements you've both committed to, and practical steps you can start immediately. Something concrete to work from, not just a vague hope that things might get better. Couples typically make more progress in one day than in months of weekly sessions. Spaces are limited and do book up weeks in advance, so if you're ready to take that step, you'll find the link below. If you enjoyed this video, then you might also enjoy this one about 5 lies about men and sex in marriage. Let me know what you think in the comments and consider subscribing if you enjoy these conversations. Until next week, to yourselves and to others, tell the truth.